a boba shop.
Brewed to pearly perfection.
Signing up your business is easy. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan, pay, and tip too. Shop safe with touch-free QR code payments. Fees may apply. For more info, go to paypal.com/us/getQRcode.
This year, you earn unlimited 4% cash back on dining out or in, 4% back on entertainment, or on popular streaming. And now, 3% back at grocery stores, so you can make the cake that makes her day.
Happy birthday to you.
So earn unlimited cash back for going out or staying in with the Capital One Saver Card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
You're tougher. Enroll now at a California community college. You can get credit for what you already know and learn the latest career skills with online and in-person classes. Financial aid is available too. Enroll now at stanroll.com.
Yeah, switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch, and you can contact your local agent for personalized assistance.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even jousting. And it's not. Just ask my cousin Ernie.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance, and you can keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might cause you to feel rich, which might lead you to hire a butler. Do you really need a butler?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver. And they offer discounts to military and federal employees.
But after you switch, you might be so happy that you celebrate by doing the Running Man, and nobody does the Running Man anymore.
Well, Geico is the second largest car insurer in the country and has been saving people money for over 75 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.
O'Reilly. Get more miles on the road with O'Reilly Auto Parts. A clean fuel system means better gas mileage for your car. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, get 2 bottles of Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner for $8. Plus, earn double O Rewards points. For a clean, lubricated, more fuel-efficient system, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Back like only we can. It's the return of the iconic iHeart Music Festival in Las Vegas, Friday, September 17th and Saturday the 18th. And we want you there with us to party with the biggest names in music. Billie Eilish, Dua Lipa, Coldplay, Maroon 5, and so many more. Just download the free iHeart app and search WIN for your first chance to win your way in. Win your way into our iHeart Radio Music Festival with the free iHeart app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenido to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. We love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. You're the loud and the free, and the home of the brave on a beautiful June the 17th, 2021. Bondo Deportes, bonjour, Big C. The Veni Veni Vici. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, there's a lot of excitement and admiration going on here in the South today. Today, Charlton, black people got their second federal holiday. For people that are in the Constitution that are only registered as 2/3 of a person, Charlton, we now have our second official black holiday in the United States. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. Many of them are black, Charlton, and will enjoy this holiday also.
Holiday for everybody. Everybody gets a holiday. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic. He will do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at us to a picture. Man, I love pausing I love pausing so much, but I'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, everyone's doing it from sea to shining sea. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we have to think about the service of our great veterans that have served this country during times of need, Charlton, and not asking for really anything in return other than to just think about them. We need to think about them more, Charlton, as they try to assimilate back into society.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we lose over 24 veterans a day to suicide, a very horrific disease, Charlton, that afflicts people from all walks of life. But our veterans especially, Charlton, because they did so much to keep this country great, and this country just doesn't seem to have the time for them. We talk about physical health, it's mental health that people need to be worried about as much as their physical health, Charlton, because without good mental health, you can never keep yourself healthy physically. And unfortunately, it has afflicted too many people, especially our veterans, that has caused suicide. Have a conversation with people. Find out how they're going. I know people want to say thank you for your service. You know, ask them, is everything okay beyond thank you for your service? Are you doing okay today? Do you need somebody to talk to? Just those simple, kind words, Charlton, can help save someone's life. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number because that's what they're trained to do. But everyone is trained in life, Charlton, to ask somebody how they're doing and how's their day going.
Very well said. I think Stevie Wonder said it best. I just called to say I love you. It's all fair and love. War 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones, and maybe even yourself. Also, I want to say, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T U-verse, TV 53, home of the first place, sometimes, San Francisco Giants. And when you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you, home of the Say Hey Kid and the home run king, Barry Bonds. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country. And the goal is simple: help people get back to work. McDonald's is doing it. Sports teams are doing it. Car dealers are doing it. Watch sports TV and TV work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight. Also, Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. My goodness, Big C. I'm telling you, the heat index is like, you don't need a shower in California. You just need a bar of soap and some Listerine to gargle with, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's nice and cool in my domain. I've had the air conditioning running 24 hours a day. I don't even step outside unless I have to.
Don't even step outside unless you have to. Even the cats are trying to say, please, please, can you let a brother in? It's all fair in love and war. Wishing everybody, please, stay hydrated. If you got family, especially elderly, make sure they're hydrated. If you have young kids, sometimes they think, oh, I can do it. I can do anything. I'm Superman. And they need to have some liquids in their bodies because the heat index can cause heat stroke, and people don't know they have it. They just fall asleep, and sometimes that's a bad thing that happened to you. I want to make sure we give out that message. Big C, you know, we talked about so many things in the sports universe. It really is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls are the foundation to that billion-dollar industry. I want to go right to the NBA, Big C. And it's just like the cat. You ever put some scraps out and the cat just keeps coming back and keeps coming back and keeps coming back, makes you nuts?
Well, Charlton, I try to make sure they stay away from my house. Put the dog outside, he wants nothing to do with that.
Well, obviously, you don't live in New York because the cats scare dogs, if that makes sense to you. It's all fair level war. But these guys just don't give up. How the Hawks pulled off an epic 26-point comeback win over the mighty Philadelphia City of brotherly love Sixers, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I had a friend that was at the game last night. He was sitting behind the Philadelphia bench during the timeout.
Yeah.
And he heard, Doc Rivers talking to his players. And the response that he got from the players, That's the players. I guess that Chuck thing was going on, Charlton, and they put the Heimlich maneuver on. And by the time they were done with the Heimlich maneuver, the game was over.
That's not funny. If people having a heat stroke and you making fun of the Philadelphia 76ers, I thought you were really choking, Big C. I thought you got drafted by the 76ers. It's all fair and love and war. The Hawks trailed. It's pretty bad when you say a bird beat you up. I got beat up by a bird. That's not a good macho thing to say. But the Hawks did trail the 76ers. Behind the great Joel Embiid and the great Seth Curry, they were rolling in front of a home crowd in Philadelphia that ultimately ended up loving them, like a relationship that's good and then is bad. They started booing them also. The fifth-seeded Atlanta Hawks, Big C, erased on a 26-point deficit, defeating the top-seeded Philadelphia 76ers, Big C. It was 109-106, taking a 3-2 series lead in the Eastern Conference semifinals. And it seems like the team that wins that game 5, they end up winning about 82% of the time, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, you saw a team that was struggling last night.
Yeah.
They had no macho. This team was walking around, their butt got tight as a frog in a snowstorm. I mean, you can see all the jubilation going on the Hawks bench. These players were loose and jumping up and down, having fun. And you know, the Philadelphia 76ers looked like somebody just kicked them in the stomach.
Yeah, well, they did kick them in the stomach, Big C. Also kicked them in the backside, which is on the opposite side of the stomach, if that makes sense to you. It's all a little anatomy. But the great, we could use some ice, Big C. His name is Ice. I guess they call him Ice Trae. But Ice Trae, known as Trae Young, dropped 39 points, Big C. He's not the biggest. He's probably the smallest guy on the court, but he played like the biggest Hulk in the fight, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I think the Philadelphia 76ers last night, Charlton, put out a missing person alert during the game.
Yeah.
And it was for Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
This guy's supposed to be all defense. And this is what here's a guy they talking about giving a max contract to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen guys at the end of the bench play better offense than what Ben Simmons does. You can put anybody on the court to dribble a ball and bring it up. But when you're supposed to be an all-defensive player in the NBA, and you're getting torched for this type of points, Charlton, by just a third-year guard in the NBA that's trying to find his way, he's become a liability to the Philadelphia 76ers. He will not cover the top scorer for Atlanta. He can't shoot a free throw. So what utilization is he on the floor? And they're talking about giving him a $200 million max contract?
$200 million, and I think he scored a handful of baskets. It's all fair love of war. But again, the great Ice Trae Young, dropping 39 points. Collins contributed 19 and 11 rebounds. Gallinari had 16 points and 8 rebounds, and then Williams scored 15. They all scored more than Simmons, and I know Simmons is a good defensive player, but something's up with him. Maybe he's had too many Philly cheesesteak. I told him he should have had the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. Yeah.
Here it is. You're playing defense, but you can't score.
Yeah.
This is a scorer's league. I mean, this is like a ping pong match nowadays. In basketball, you can't touch anybody.
Yeah.
He's 6'8",
yeah,
and he can't rise up over a 6'2" guard and shoot a jump shot.
Well, he had a bad game. I don't know if you've ever run up against a big bird that was not afraid to fly around you, Big C. So it could be a scary thing if you've ever seen African.
He didn't even take a shot from the floor in the second half.
Yeah.
Think about that. He didn't take a shot.
Yeah.
So I don't care how big and bad that bird is. I mean, I understand that a hawk is a bird of prey. It seems like he should at least pray to him and let him get one off.
Yeah, it's all fair. Those Hawks were dipped in grease, Big C. Before the series, when you think about the Hawks were 0-41 in the past 25 seasons when trailing by 18 points or more. They just came back from 18 down to win a consecutive games. And then I want to turn the tide to Philadelphia because they've let 2 games get away. I know everybody has a hitch in their giddy up right now, so that's not really the reason Joel Embiid still played. They wasted 37 points and 13 rebounds from the biggest Philly cheesesteak eater of them all, the great Joel Embiid, Big C, and a playoff career high 36 points from Seth Curry. There was rumor that Steph Curry was in his uniform, but no, it was his brother that dropped it 36 points. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, like I said, my friend sent me that tape of that timeout.
Yeah,
that was the Philadelphia 76ers last night. You talk about I mean, they got the patent in the last 2 games on choking, Charlton. You look at the deficit that the Hawks have been in the last 2 games, a combined 35-plus points, and came back and won the games, Charlton, in the fourth quarter. I mean, you're talking about what supposedly be the best team in the NBA East, and you got a number 5 seed walking in there, like, you know, you guys belong to us. You know, we had this analogy when we were young, and I know it still exists amongst athletes. You got punked, okay? That's what happened to the Philadelphia 76ers. They got punked the last 2 games.
Well, I don't know if you've ever taken on a 6-foot-tall bird, Big C. Sometimes it can be a little bit scary. It's all fair and level war. That's why God gave Hawks wings, Big C. They can go low, and they can go high. It's all fair and level war. But in the final 20 minutes, the Hawks shot 67% from the field. That's almost like a free throw for a back shooter, Big C. That's amazing to shoot 67% from the field. Most guys shoot about 50%.
Well, you think about that. You say 67% from the field. Ben Simmons is shooting 32% from the free throw line. 32%. And the Hawks can shoot 67% from the field.
From the field, Big C. And 46% from threes, Big C. That's better than Steph Curry shooting 46% from threes, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, like I said, I mean, when you got a team that's shooting at that level, and you got a guy that you're talking about giving a max contract and only shoot 32% from the free throw line, they got the hack of Simmons going on. We had the hack of Shaq decades ago. Now they got the hack of Simmons. I can understand Shaq, big, bulky center, you know, had a hard time getting up and down the floor. But here's a guy that's supposed to be the leader of your offense, and he's an offensive liability.
Well, sometime if you get in front of that Philly crowd, you realize he knew they were going to boo, so he said, why would I try? I'm going to get that money anyway. But the 76ers were 33%, 27%, and 61% respectively when you look at what they did. It's amazing. All 9 free throws made when the Hawks were doing their thing. Young hit 21 points in 17 minutes. How do you get 21 points in 17 minutes? It's called not being afraid to go to the basket and shoot the ball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we've talked about that continuously in the playoffs. You got to get into the paint. You got to force the defense to react. Here's Trae Young at 6'2", not afraid to go amongst the trees. But you got Ben Simmons at 6'8", saying, look, I don't want to go in there and get my body shot. And so that's the difference in the game. The aggressive offensively of the Hawks. I told you that Collins was going to have a big game as well as Gallinari. They both delivered last night with double figures, Charlton, helping out Trae Young. They played solid defense. But like I said, right now Philadelphia has a liability, and it's called Ben Simmons.
They gotta figure that out. They only got 1 more game to figure that out. 2 if they figured out Big C. It's amazing. Williams scored 15 points in 16 minutes. So the thing I like about what Atlanta's doing, and I can't believe they have not given their head coach, they have not signed him to a multi-year contract yet. Big C, what are they waiting on, Big C? Your thoughts?
They're waiting on the season to be over, Charlton, and it comes down to negotiation. Nate McMillan was not in a hurry. He wanted to prove himself once again as being a head coach. This is the 3rd team that he has been the head coach of, Charlton. He's been in Portland. He's been in Indiana. Now he's in Atlanta. He's proven that he can take this team to new heights, Charlton. And so once they're over, they don't want to put contract negotiations in the middle of the progression that the team is going through right now.
It's all fair and level more. I'm glad your cough cleared up, Big C, because it was a crescendo of boos from the knucklehead fans of Philadelphia. If you're going to boo your own team, then you don't deserve to go to the next round. That's just my opinion. They should be, encouraging their team. But they're like people, they're fair-weather fans, even though they say Philly has a great fan base. They're a joke in my opinion. But everybody has their own way of showing their distaste. They pay for the tickets. I guess they can boo if they want to. Maybe the players should turn around and boo those fans. You're supposed to be helping your team, but it's all fair in level war. I want to go to this ocean, and I feel like jumping in the ocean, Big C. The Pacific Ocean looks mighty appealing right now. Just make sure you can swim because the water's a lot colder than it looks, Big C. There's a good old boy by the name of King Paul George, Big C, and he told some good old boys what maybe Giannis is going to tell the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. He said, I got us. How the Clippers' King Paul George lived up to the playoff P, Big C, and the Game 5 win over the Jazz. He told all of his critics, you can't hold my jockstrap, and I'm not even going to let you try if you beg, Big C. He would not let his critics hold his jockstrap, and he went in and did what he had to do last night. They got to win in Utah, even though, in my opinion, the officials tried to give that game to the Utah Jazz, but King Paul George was not having it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at what Paul George has done in the playoffs, I mean, this has been the best playoff run of his NBA career. He's been around over a dozen years, and this is the best that he's ever showed. And last night there was a lot of critics thinking he wouldn't be able to get it done, and even myself included, without Kawhi Leonard in the lineup.
Yeah.
But yet he went out and proved us all wrong. This is what professional athletes are supposed to do. When everything is on the line, you have to go out there and deliver. I know you say Utah looked like, the officials were helping
they
them out.
were.
I mean, Utah was ablaze in the first quarter. I mean, when they hit 10 threes in the first quarter, I didn't think that they had a chance of winning the game. But the officials did balance things out. I mean, there were some egregious calls going both ways throughout the game. I think Donovan Mitchell has too much of a workload without Conley in the lineup.
Yeah.
Not only does he have to bring the ball up and facilitate, because they don't have anybody else to do that.
Yeah.
Is that he still has to get his shot off, and so he's been troubled with the bad leg.
Yeah, he's been, and also the great Kawhi Leonard wasn't there. And I thought also, as good as King Paul George is, Big C, I thought he needed the claw to help him out. But did they learn something that every team needs to learn? You don't always need your first team guy, Batman and Robin. Sometimes Robin can do it without Batman. But you need Batman and Robin if you're going to win a series. But maybe you don't, because Paul George, when it comes to Batman and Robin, the claw is Batman and George is Robin. But George fulfilled his promise, Big C. There was a song by a great performer back in the day, and it was called Promise Me. And I'll remember the name in a little bit, but it's one of the favorite songs. It's called Promise Me You'll Stay. And people can Google on that, but his name is the great Jeffrey Osborne, Northern California's finest. It's called Promise Me You'll Stay. And that's what the great King Paul George said last night, fulfilled his promise. He led the Clippers a 119-111 win over the Utah Jazz in Game 5 of the Western Conference semifinals, in a game that often, when you think about it, Big C, short-term and long-term, and symbolic implications. There's something about King Paul George that had a rebirth last night. Utah, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it was a tale of two tapes. You think about the first half when the Utah Jazz could not miss from three, but they were only 3 for 22, I believe, in the second half, 3 for 24 from three-point range, which made the difference. This is a team during the regular season that shot more threes and made more threes than any team in NBA history.
Yeah.
And they lived and died by that last night. But when you think about the X-Factor players in the Clippers lineup, that was the real difference in the game, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you saw those players come off the bench and make the points, you saw Mann, you saw Beverly. These guys came in and added a spark to the Clippers lineup, Charlton, and speeded up the game and took the big men of the Clippers out in the second half. I mean, of the Nuggets out.
It's the moonshine. It's the moonshine, Big C. It's the moonshine. Just to let you know, you're being booed by those Philly fans because they boo people on this shine. It's all fair.
Still joking too. The fans, they trying to swallow a cheesesteak. Half of them.
It's all fair. In Leavenworth, the game must go on. The great King Paul George, Big C. He dropped 37 points while shooting 12 of 22 from the field. He was 10 of 11 from free throw line. And that's contrast to what we talked about Simmons earlier, Big C, not knocking on Simmons. With a playoff career high, 16 Wilt Chamberlain-like rebounds, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, 37 points, 16 rebounds, 5 assists. A complete game by Paul George. We saw a similar performance like that a few nights ago by Kevin Durant when called upon to carry a team because those other alleged superstars are not in the lineup, that is falling on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And we want to see how big they are.
Yeah. Well, Kevin Durant has changed his name. Kareem went from Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Ron Artest went from Ron Artest to Metta World Peace. And Kevin Durant went from Kevin Durant to Super Black Man, Big C. He's, Shaft stepped aside, Shaft. We got Super Black Man. It's all fair level. Shaft would have been proud of what he did the other night in Brooklyn, Big C. Your thoughts?
I don't know if he'd have been able to run and jump with that long leather coat on.
Why was Shaft wearing a hot leather coat when it's 105 degrees, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, also Shaft had a full head of hair, and we see the Slim Reapers going bald up top.
Yeah, that's the new look. He did it that way on purpose. It's all fair in Leavenworth, Big C. But when I think about what happened with the great King Paul George, it's amazing. NBA career, 30 consecutive point playoff performance, 3 as well as becoming the first year. Think about this, the first player in franchise history to have at least 20 points in 12 consecutive appearances. So why is this perception that King Paul George is Robin instead of Batman, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, he came in, and Kawhi Leonard, they said, was the recruiter. They brought in Kawhi first. They brought in George after that, Charleston. Because Kawhi has the 2 championship rings, people give him the Super Bowl leadership of the Clippers from the media. But both of these guys have had all-star careers on and off.
Yeah, they're both amazing. I really appreciate what they're doing next to the Pacific Ocean. As that tide is high and is rolling on. It's all fair. The great Boy George saying that for the King Paul George coming back to L.A. Big C. The great Marcus Morris, he was doing his thing, Big C. Marcus Morris Sr., he dropped 25 points. Reggie Jackson, not the baseball hitter, Mr. October, but he dropped in 22. Terrence Mann had 13. They all cracked double figures. Now, the Jazz, they kept things close, even though the Clippers said, you guys sound a lot taller on the radio, Big C. They kept it close. Bogdanovich dropping in 32 points. He was amazing. The great Donovan Mitchell, 21 points on 6 of 19 shooting. I thought he should have learned what Trae Young, Ice Trae was doing for the Atlanta game against Philadelphia. I know you can shoot the 3. I know you like seeing it go in from deep. But sometimes you can get that 3 points by going to the basket. You know they're going to give you the foul, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, that's what a bad leg can do for you, just like with Joel Embiid. These guys with the bad wheels have been staying away from the rim because you come down awkwardly on somebody's foot, Charleston, and that can end your playoff.
Yeah, we've seen that happen with the great, a lot of players have come down like that. Irving's doing the same thing, dealing with that, coming down on Giannis' foot. But you think about it, Big C, Rudy Gobert, 17 points, but he seemed like he was blocking everything that was coming down the paint, and therefore the Clippers pulled out a lot, Big C. They didn't want to challenge the great Rudy Gobert down in the paint. Jordan Clarkson, 15. Royce O'Neal, he poured in 12. Joe Ingles poured in 12. The normally offensive proficient Jazz, they kind of stagnated after shooting effectively from three-point range in the first quarter that you talked about. They were 10 of 15. The second quarter, they were 7 of 15. The Jazz missed all 10 of their three-point attempts in the third. I think you said earlier, because they were so hot from three in the first half of the game, it was going to cost them in the second half of the game, or did I misunderstand you, Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, it did cost them, Johnson, because they did not leave that alone and start milking the clock, Johnson. They just kept launching from three.
Yeah.
But I think the game swung, Johnson, when Terrence Mann went in and posterized Rudy Gobert. He dunked over the 7-foot defensive player of the year in the NBA.
Yeah.
And you can see the momentum change at that point with the Clippers, Johnson. They said, we have nothing to fear any longer, and that's when they started making separation.
Yeah, they started making some separation. Before, I wish everybody nothing but the best. It's been a weird year in so many different ways, Big C. Before we come up on the Big C pause, I want to touch on something here. And I want to come back after the Big C pause, and I want to ask you about Super Black Man and that Super Buck, King Giannis up in Milwaukee. But in a season, Big C, marked by rising concerns about the injuries to stars and the future impact of those high-load players that you even expressed some concern about before the season even started, on what basis does NBA believe that human beings can handle this schedule without getting injured, Big C? The NBA spokesman Mike Bass, after criticism of the league, says injury rates were virtually the same this season as they were during 2019-2020, while starter-level all-star players missed games due to injury at similar rates as the last three seasons. And I think he's wrong because sometimes he doesn't look with his own eyes, Big C. Your thoughts?
Define virtual for me, Johnson, when somebody's using that as an excuse. It's like we see that on baseball games. When the pitcher's throwing the ball and the umpire's having a generous strike zone, they say, well, he's virtually in the area of the plate. Okay? So when you say virtually the same, what do you mean by that? You're not giving a definitive answer. That means that you got more people injured. That's a soft way of saying you got more people injured this year than what you had last year. But we're not going to count the totality of the numbers, Johnson. The NBA is going to lie about that as well as they lied about a lot of other things this year.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war, and people do whatever they got to do, and they figure it out along the way that most people don't pay a lot of attention.
But think about this, Johnson. Why in the hell didn't Adam Silver speak up?
Yeah.
He's still one of his couch boys out there to cover for his butt.
Yeah, because sometimes maybe he wasn't sure that the guy would out cover for him. I don't know, but that's a very good question. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that super galactic matchup. It's like the Avengers, Big C. We have Super Black Man Kevin Durant versus King Giannis Antetokounmpo, and something has to give, Big C. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow Big C Sports, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our sponsors pop up from all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. Big C, I know that everybody has an opinion about, is Giannis better than Durant? Is Durant better than Giannis? These guys are top of the mountain, MVP kind of players. They already have the accolades. But you have the Brooklyn Nets, game's already underway, versus the Milwaukee Bucks. It's Game 6 of the 2021 NBA playoffs. And it's amazing because you and I talked about it too. I've heard a lot more people talking about it. I don't think Giannis is afraid of anybody. But you were saying that you think Giannis should tell his head coach, no, I'm guarding that guy like Deion Sanders was guarding Michael Irvin in the bathroom 94 NFL NFC Championship game. Do you stand behind your words, or do you want to maybe apologize to King Giannis, Big C?
Hell no, I ain't going to apologize to him, Charlton. Man up. Take on the challenge. I mean, if you're the best, then go out there and play against the best. Don't back down. Don't cower out. I mean, when this is about your season and the future of your franchise, and you're refusing to just go out there, damn what the coach says, take the lead. You're supposed to be the best. You're two-time MVP. You're two-time Defensive Player of the Year, and yet you're not even going to go out there and try to guard the hottest guy on the floor? I mean, that's cowardice. And on the professional ranks, Charlton, best on best, big on big. This is what you do. You don't sit there and say, I'm going to defer.
Yeah. And I blame the coach, but it's all fair in love and war. I think Giannis is ready for the task. And in fact, rumor is he said he's ready for the task, Big C. The Bucks lost. It wasn't because of Giannis. The ball was tipped away in the final seconds of the last game in Brooklyn. It could have tied the game.
Giannis fumbled the ball away the last, if you think about it, with 2 seconds to go. Giannis fumbled the ball away when he got a feed underneath the basket.
Yeah.
He couldn't hold on to it because he had been in panic mode.
Yeah, I won't call that panic mode. He dropped 34 points. He was 14 of 22 shooting from the floor. He made 2 of 4 3-pointers. That's 50%. That's better than Curry, 2 of 4 3-pointers. He was also not pretty bad from the charity stripe. He made 4 of 7 free throw attempts. That wasn't the best. But as far as saying a guy dropping 34 points is scared, I don't agree. He's 6'11".
He dropped the basketball 2 feet away from the rim.
That's just one.
On a pinpoint pass. He let it go through his hands because he was zealous at the time, Charlton, and blew an opportunity for them to come back.
Who was that good boy for Cleveland that fumbled on the 1-yard line in the playoffs versus Denver?
Regardless of what Ernest Biner did, which was 3 decades ago, we're talking about 2 nights ago when Giannis had the ball 2 feet from the basket and couldn't hold on to it.
Yeah, I still don't think Giannis, if he scored 7 points or 10 points, I can say maybe, but he was not afraid.
In the 34 points that he scored, how many of them was in the victory?
Well, the point is, it's 5-on-5.
We can make points about statistics are for losers. We've heard that our entire life in sports. Statistics are for losers. When you lose a game, well, how did I do on the stat line? That's what you're concerned about. When you win a game, you don't give a damn about a stat line.
Yeah, but the guy you were pumping, the Joker for a league MVP, he was home watching the game.
He's not even playing. We're talking about Giannis. I love, Charlton, how you always defer to somebody else when we're talking about a particular individual. You got to reach into your bag of tricks and say, okay, I found this thing. What about him? And he's not even in the playoffs. What about Anthony Davis? What about LeBron? They're not in the playoffs. We can talk about all the guys that are sitting home like us watching the game. We're talking about Giannis blowing a 2-foot opportunity in the basket.
Yeah, but it's one thing to criticize somebody.
Did you see the game?
Yeah, I saw the game.
Did you see him fumble the ball away with 2 seconds to go?
Yeah, but he
was in the game. I don't think Jokic was in the game. I don't think LeBron was in the game. I don't think Anthony Davis was in the game. I don't think any of those players were in the game. But I saw Giannis fumble the ball. That's what I saw. Here's a guy who was 2-time MVP of the league, 2-time all-defensive player, and supposed to be a perennial all-star, getting max money, $200 million contract. 2 feet from the basket, couldn't hold on to the ball.
Yeah, I've seen.
That had nothing to do with anybody else. Nobody grabbed his arm. Nobody hit his hand. Ball went through his hand.
Yeah, last I checked, he's human. And last I checked, you were also wrong about King Paul George. But I just don't like to tell an athlete that's the best in the universe that they choke or that they were afraid. They don't get there by choking or being afraid. But like they say,
you say that about Joker all the time.
Well, I didn't say he choked. I just said he's not the best player. That's a difference between he's trash or he's used up or a tin can. I wouldn't say that about somebody that's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And King Giannis will be in the Hall of Fame, but that's just my opinion, and maybe he'll have a chance to prove it tonight. And it's unfair that people are jumping on him as if he doesn't even play in the NBA, like he's playing G League basketball or something.
No, he plays in the NBA, but tell me what have the Bucks done over the last 3 seasons in the NBA playoffs?
They made the playoffs the last 3 seasons.
Have they made the finals any time in the last 3 years, the Eastern Finals? Have they made the 2 consecutive years while he was the MVP? In any one of those years, did they make the Eastern Conference Finals?
That's not the point, though, because there's a lot of teams.
So why ever bring Jokic into a conversation?
Because you were wearing your dress and pom-poms for the MVP that got bounced.
But I'm asking you, we're talking about, here's a guy that's the MVP, and he's supposed to get his team to the finals. He has not done it.
He doesn't play tennis. He has teammates. I mean, it's all fair and Leavenworth.
So you keep saying Jokic plays for Denver by himself.
No, I didn't say that. I said he's not the best player in the NBA. You were saying that he was.
But for everybody else, they have teammates. It's not their fault. They have to do this, blah, blah, this. I mean, hey, as you say, it's everybody's opinion, and you have a great opinion on that.
And everybody has an opinion, and my opinion is that for you to call a 2-time NBA MVP a guy that's afraid, I think you lose a lot of credibility in guys who play the game. It's all fair and Leavenworth.
He hadn't guarded Kevin Durant yet. That's fear factor right there.
Okay.
You don't want to get torched.
Well, for his $200+ million and his 2-time MVPs, I think he would disagree with your opinion, but everybody has one.
If he would man up and just say, I got this, just like Paul George said last night. He told the media and everybody else, I got this. Lean on me. Giannis hadn't done that yet in 5 games. He had an opportunity in every game to guard Kevin Durant. Say, I got this. I'm Defensive Player of the Year 2 previous years. I'm taking him mano a mano.
It's all fair in Leavenworth. He's come out and said he's going to do it, but everybody has their own opinion.
If the coach puts him on it. I'm going into Budenholzer's office and look, I got this. I'll be here longer than you if I want to, because if we lose, you're fired. If we lose, I still stay here. But I'm going to take this on because I want to get to the next round.
Yeah, well, he's not playing tennis or golf, and sometimes the coach can overrule. It's all fair in Leavenworth.
Now, when they on the floor, tell me, Charlton, you watch basketball all the time. Do you see players switching off screens, pick and rolls all the time in the game?
Yeah, but this is what I would.
But no, dude, that's a yes or no question.
No.
Do you see it? Yes or no?
Well, first of all, if you ask me...
Okay, I like... Go ahead on to the next one.
I know, but...
You're not going to answer a question
No,
direct.
but I want to... Because everybody's listening. If you ask a person a question, it's pretty rude to answer the question. Let me ask my own question.
Yes or no question.
I'm not your kid, but I'm not your kid. I'm not your kid.
I'm asking you a yes or no
I'm not your kid, and you're not the judge. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it. If you want to answer it for me, then just ask and answer your own question, Big C. I just think every athlete knows there's a lot of guys that talk real loud on the radio, wouldn't say the same thing to them face to face, and couldn't even last 5 seconds on the court with them, but say that he's afraid. He's not afraid, and we'll see what happens, but that's just your opinion. But
Charlton, I got 2 championship rings. How many Giannis have?
Okay, the point is...
How many does Giannis have?
The point is, tell him to his face.
How many championship rings do Giannis have?
What's that got to do with anything?
How many championship rings do Giannis have?
What's that got to do with anything?
As I say, you always refuse to answer a question. You draw up an equation every time.
But you don't even answer your own question.
I mean, you can sprinkle some pixie dust out there and everything will be okay.
I know, but you know, if you listen to yourself, you don't even answer your own question. I mean, that's crazy to me.
I did. I answered. I said, I have 2 championship rings. How many Giannis have? 0.
Okay, so that makes you a better player than Giannis. Congratulations.
No,
maybe you'll be playing against Durant. Maybe you'll be the one playing against Durant. It's all fair in Leavenworth. Big C's going to take the place of Giannis and guard Durant. It's all fair in Leavenworth. But there's 6 NBA head coaching vacancies with 6 different circumstances. And I'm sure that you're going to tell each one of these coaches that it's their fault they got fired, or is it the player's fault because they didn't produce? it's all fair and level war, but it's possible that there are one or two more openings, and all indications point to Atlanta removing the interim tag from Nate McMillan. And when you think about it, Big C, making him the head coach based on the job that he did after taking over the Hawks in March. Now, they're going to reward him based on the job he did, but you're telling him that all the players should tell him what plays to run, Big C. Your thoughts?
Charlton, he's made all the right moves with that lineup. It wasn't like he just walked into the scenario. He'd been there all year long. It's the proper move to take the interim title off of him, Charlton, but he has made the moves, and the players have responded to what he has done. I mean, he inserted Capella into the starting lineup, which he had not been prior to him taking over. Bogdanovich got healthy and really helped him out in that equation.
Yeah.
And Trae Young has grown up.
They've grown up, but you're saying they shouldn't listen to him. They should go tell him what player they're going to run, and that just doesn't make any sense.
Well, think about this, Charlton. The coach that they got rid of prior to McMillan, why would they get rid of him then if it's the same lineup?
But you just said Giannis to tell this coach Budenholzer to shut up. I'm going to tell you what to run, and now you credit him, McMillan for running a great team, and that's why they're maybe going to knock off Philadelphia.
McMillan has attested to that he listened to the players and took their advice on what they wanted to do, and he moved forward from that point.
Well,
when they fired Lloyd, I think his name was Collins also. Lloyd Pierce was the coach. When they fired Lloyd Pierce, they said that Lloyd was being too much a totalitarian and did not want to listen to the players.
Monty Williams said he learned the same thing with the Suns. People learn it's all fair and love and war, but this will be a year the NBA team hires. Will it be a female head coach? It may be the year. Will the team add their diversity? All the talk about diversity by hiring another black head coach, or will they have a female coach? Big C, there's 7 black head coaches, the same number the league has had at the start of 2019-2020 COVID season. Taking a look at 6 openings and possible candidates, Big C, Portland Trail Blazers. Stotts is out of there now. The list to include women's candidates also. San Antonio Spurs assistant head coach Becky Harmon. I even called her head coach now, Big C, because she's going to get a spot somewhere. The Blazers also received permission to speak with South Carolina's women's coach Dawn Staley. Also have interviewed Los Angeles Clippers assistant coach and former NBA champion Chauncey Billups, Big C, and Brooklyn Nets assistant coach Mike D'Antoni. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think Chauncey Billups should be getting a job, Charlton. When you think about the openings that are out there now in the NBA, Chauncey Billups should be on the top of everybody's list. I mean, he served his time. He's a former NBA champion, Charlton. He understands the game, and he's used to the nouveau players. You got to look at the coaching searches that go on now. When you hire a coach, you got to hire a coach, Charlton, that's familiar with, playing that 2K basketball on the video game. That understands the street lingo now of the young players that are coming into the game. So this recycling of these coaches that are 60 and 70 years old, Charlton, is no longer going to work in the NBA.
It may or it may not. Great Boston Celtics. I also want to say hello to, I believe, Nicole from Boston, now in Colorado. If I got your name wrong, I apologize, but it's all fair, love, and war. The Boston Celtics. Stevens interviewed Celtics coach Jay Larranga, Big C, Scott Morrison, and Jerome Allen. Also plans to broaden the search to include Milwaukee Bucks assistant coach Darvin Ham. I don't know if that's tampering right now, Big C. The Celtics wanted to interview the Nets assistant coach Ime Udoka, Big C, Dallas assistant Jamal Mosley, and the Bucks assistant Charles Lee, also Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you who's going to become coach of the Boston Celtics, and he just resigned his position today. Rick Carlisle from the Dallas Mavericks resigned his position. I guarantee you he'll end up as the head coach of the Boston Celtics because he fits the mold of the guy that they want. And not only that, Luka Doncic will be a free agent in a year and a half, Charlton. And if he doesn't sign that Supermax contract with the Dallas Mavericks, which I don't see him doing that, I see him moving to the East Coast. And he beat Larry Bird 2-0.
He deserves to be on the East Coast. I know Cuban wouldn't like that, but Cuban did some things without consulting him. Maybe he should have, maybe he shouldn't. It's his money. But I think Luka would do better being on the West Coast or the East Coast. That's just my opinion. Texas is always going to be Dallas Cowboy territory, in my opinion, Big C. Indiana Pacers went through this year process a year ago, and finalists include Ham, Udoka, Philadelphia assistant Dave Joger, Big C, who was out here part of the Sacramento Kings in Northern California, former head coach Memphis in Sacramento, and then Miami assistant Dan Craig. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you look at Indiana, Charlton. They went through it a year ago. You just hired a coach. You bring him in for 1 year. You dispel him. what good does it do to keep recycling year after year? Coaches, you'll never have a stabilization in your organization.
Never have it, Big C. What the good old boy said, never going to get it, never going to get it. Those good old girls from back in the day. Also, Orlando Magic player development is a key for whoever gets that job down there in Disney World. The job could be tailor-made for a first-time head coach willing to put their stamp on the team the same way Quinn Snyder did in Utah. But Quinn Snyder's a different breed of cat, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is what they need. You got these young players, as I say, with this new boat league now, Charlton, where the young players are coming in, and it's all about them. And they're Y2K stars, and you know, they're playing at NBA 2K on the video machines, and the music. It's just the timing that you look at with these guys. You can't bring an old hat in like they did down in New Orleans with Van Gundy, a guy who's been around the NBA forever, and you had all these young players that didn't respond to it.
It's like changing socks and putting on that same old pair of socks with a different pair of old shoes. Sometimes you need something new, Big C, all fair and level. Washington Wizards, New Orleans Pelicans, Dallas Mavericks. Now, Lakers assistant Jason Kidd, who did take the New Jersey Nets to the NBA Finals back in the day. They lost to the Lakers, Kobe and Shaq and them good old boys, Big C. But Jason Kidd and former, Nets coach Kenny Atkinson, Big C, also received consideration. It includes Pelicans assistant coach Teresa Weatherspoon. Jason Kidd should be a head coach, somebody. One of the better point guards in the history of the NBA, and did a lot of good things for Cal Berkeley University. Continued to improve in the NBA, but I guess he's only going to be an assistant. I hate to see other people move ahead of him, but it's all fair and love and more.
He's been a head coach before the NBA.
He took him to the finals.
He also won an NBA title as a player. You know where he won a title as a player?
Where's that?
Dallas Mavericks, who just got an opening today. The Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
So he and Mark Cuban have an outstanding relationship, Charlton. So when you think about that, that might be his landing spot.
That might be a good landing spot for him. The great Dirk Nowitzki is all fair and level worth. Big C. Other names worth watching: Denver associate head coach Wes Unseld Jr., former Pelicans coach Alvin Gentry, Big C. I think he would be solid foundation. Former Hawks head coach Lloyd Pierce, Warriors assistant coach Mike Brown, who was in Cleveland with LeBron James, Big C. Former Golden State assistant coach Jaron Collins, and then former Blazers and Timberwolves assistant Dave Vanderpool, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I want to see the NBA finally go young. You got to do like your players.
Yeah.
If you don't have coaches that identify with these young players, Charlton, you're going to lose hold of the ball club. And if you look at the coaches that are in the playoffs right now, Charlton, yes, some of them are middle-aged, but you look at somebody like Tyronn Lue.
Yeah.
You look at the guy up in Utah, Snyder.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are still young, middle-aged coaches, Charlton, that understand and can identify with the players that they're coaching.
Yep.
When you get too far removed, you're going to have a problem. Doc Rivers has a plus because he has a son that's in the NBA, and he's played in the NBA.
And he's got a championship, Big C. It's all fair and level work. Carey Price in the NHL. NHL is really on ice. They need to take that ice and just kind of sprinkle some ice water on a lot of people as people are chasing Lord Standees. Big Cup, Big C is all fair and level work. Carey Price made 29 saves. The Montreal Canadiens, they beat the Las Vegas Golden Knights. It was 3-2 on Wednesday night to tie their Lord Stanley Cup semifinal series at a game apiece. And Price improved to 9-4 in the playoffs. His most victories in a postseason, he had 8 in 2014. Paul Byron, Big C, and Joel Amia and Tyler Toffoli scored for Montreal, and Byron making it 3-0 with 2:45 left in the second period. It was Alex Pietrangelo, Big C, scored twice for Vegas. And Marc-Andre Fleury is amazing, 20 saves. Game 3 is Friday night in the beautiful city of Montreal, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that was the first win by the Montreal Canadiens in over 13 months in the United States.
Yeah.
They've been stuck up in Canada, Charlton, so it was a great move for them, and now they got home ice advantage against the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep.
And this is the first time that a U.S. team will play in Canada in over 13 months.
In over 13 months. Send some of that ice down to California. It's all fair in Leavenworth. The pitch hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. It's all fair in Leavenworth, Big C. Everybody's hitting home runs. The girls love the long ball, and men love hitting it deep. It's all fair in Leavenworth. Major League Baseball, Arizona Diamondbacks. And it's like 116 degrees down in Arizona. They matched the Major League Baseball record, 22nd straight road loss. And as it happened, they chose a route that made sense given the circumstances. They were blown out, Big C, and falling 13-7 to the team in the city by the bay, the San Francisco Giants. that we preview every show. The Diamondbacks tied a modern era record with 22. Think about this. Their 22nd consecutive loss on the road. They will soon have a chance to own their outright record rather than sharing it with the 1943 Philadelphia Athletics before they came out to Oakland and the 1963 New York Mets. They've lost 27 of 29 and 36 of 41, Big C, and yet the Diamondbacks, again, they look like a team that has not quit. Maybe those rattlesnakes are getting a little too old, Big C. I thought.
Well, Charlton, I guess they got worried about that sticky substance that they were putting on the baseball and couldn't put any more rattlesnakes on the ball, Charlton, and haven't been able to get the ball out of the stadium.
Yeah, it's all fair and level work. It's a little bit discouraging when you don't have, when you don't have that. It's hard to just keep losing over and over again, but it's all fair and level work. That's why they're playing the game tonight's Major League schedule. The Yankees are at the Blue Jays. The Cubs are at the Mets, Big C. The Chicago White Sox, Tony La Russa is taking naps, Big C, and they're still doing their thing. They're at the Houston Astros. The Brewers are at the Rockies. The Reds, they are at the Padres. The Tigers will be at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And the Tampa Bay Rays will be at the Seattle Mariners. Maybe they can have some freshly live fish from the fish market, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about the best two records in baseball, they have ties to the Bay Area. The Chicago White Sox, as well as the San Francisco Giants. Tony La Russa has the White Sox on top in the American League, and you think about the Giants, they're on top in the National League. Wouldn't it be iconic if both of those teams ended up against each other in the World Series?
It would be iconic, Big C. It would be a lot of naps and a lot of no-dos for a lot of people staying awake in dugouts if they're managing. It's all fair and level war. Speaking of staying awake and no-dos, don't sleep on the WNBA, Big C. It is fantastic. The great Erica Wheeler dropping 18 points, including a baseline jumper, with 8.9 seconds left to seal the win. Notice, man, she wasn't trying to shoot a 40-foot bomb. As the Los Angeles Sparks, they beat the Phoenix Mercury as the Heat's rising in Southern California, especially Arizona. It was 85-80 on Wednesday night. Wheeler, Big C, her sixth WNBA season, finished off her first career double-double, adding 10 assists and 5 rebounds for Los Angeles. They're 5-5 right now. Christy Tolliver dropped 17 points. Amanda Zulli had scored 15, Brittany Sykes 14, and Bria Holmes had 10. When you think about Brittany Griner, finished with season high 30 points and 10 rebounds for Phoenix, Big C. They're 5-7, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you think about the ladies and how they perform, you talk about them going to the rim instead of settling for a three-pointer.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why the Portland Trailblazers are interviewing 2 female potential head coaches to break the ranks in the NBA.
Yep. They're going to have to find out something because, there's a lot of movement going on, Big C, no matter who's going to end up where. But I can tell you my opinion, Dollar Dame's wasting his days up in Portland, and Luka Doncic's wasting his days down in Texas, but he may stay in J.R. Ewing's ranch. Sometimes those Cowboys can influence you when they give you a Maverick that you can call your own, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, he could be horse riding all the time. It won't be like, that deer meat that you go after. But I guess if USC can pass, I think fast something Mark Cuban.
It's all fair and level war. Speaking of horses, you can enjoy the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. Also, this segment sponsored by Budweiser Zero is 0% alcohol. 100% of your gain is all fair in level war. I want to bring up something because we talk about team sports all the time, Big C. Pro tennis, the world number 2 women's player, Naomi Osaka, Wimbledon, and the men's number 2 player, the great Rafa Nadal, Big C, would you believe they withdraw from the Wimbledon and the Olympics, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about all of what's going on in the world, and we always talk about mental issues with players. We saw where Naomi Osaka withdrew from her last tournament citing mental issues, that she needed a break away from the press and everybody else. And you commend the young woman for stepping out in public, letting mental issues be known on the world platform stage. Charlton. That takes a lot of courage, and it helps a lot of people out that don't have the notoriety and the power of a Naomi Osaka. So she's withdrawn from Wimbledon, Charlton, to spend time with family and friends and take care of that mental health issues, Charlton. Not just the physical health and getting the body back together, but getting the mind right so when she does come back on the court, that she will be ready. And when we look at Rafa Nadal, he's pulled out of Wimbledon as well as the Olympics, Charlton, citing physical health. But mental is also part of it. He's 38 years old. And he just came off an epic battle with Novak Djokovic, Charlton, at the French Open in Roland Garros, where he lost to him, Charlton, for only the second time in 9 meetings between the two.
Yeah.
But, you got to take care of all aspects of the body. So I commend these athletes saying that they need to take care of personal issues, and they'll get back to the game eventually.
Very well said. And nobody has to agree. You and I don't always agree on anything, but it's all fair and love and war, and sometimes that makes things better. Somebody like cheese on their Big C burger, others like it plain. It's all fair and love and war. Speaking of something that everybody should agree, but not everybody does. It's all fair and love and war. Black History Month, Big C. The United States House of Representatives overwhelmingly votes to make Juneteenth a federal holiday. President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris signed the bill into law today. That means it's on paper for you good old boys down south. The bill to make June 19th a federal holiday passed in the House by a bipartisan vote of 415 to 14, Big C. And a lot of conservative radio people, they're perturbed, Big C. In fact, they're livid that they would have another holiday for black Americans. It's all fair and love and war, but that's true talk, Big C. A lot of good old boys are perturbed that they're doing something that's going to, in a sense, maybe try to right or wrong. But the Senate passed the legislation unanimously on Tuesday. Just one day earlier, the Juneteenth National Independence Day, the act would grant every federal employee a day off to commemorate June 19th. 1865, Big C, the day enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, discovered President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, Big C, that freed slaves, African Americans, in rebel states 2.5 years earlier. The day is also known as Freedom Day or Emancipation Day, and you and I may agree or disagree on Super Black Man Kevin Durant or King Giannis, but there's still a lot of conservatives that say, why in the world would they get a holiday, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, there's so much hatred in America about blacks advancing and gaining potential equality in this country, and the vitriol that continuously has come out for. You think about, this is only the second black holiday in United States history.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day became official in 1983. And now we have Juneteenth coming official in 2021, Charlton. And it's a federal holiday. That means everybody benefits from it. But there's so much white society that figures that blacks are getting an advantage because now they have 2 holidays. And in the Constitution, they only registered as 2/3 of a person.
Yep.
And now, the fight, because of all these state legislators, are refusing to recognize whatever happened to blacks during those days of slavery and all of that. And they don't want it taught in school. They said it sheds a bad light on what white people did, Charlton, but it's history. And the only way we learn from history is to speak about history.
Yeah, I remember being called the N-word when I was in first grade. I still remember her name was Mrs. Stevens. I was the only black kid in that class. And I was having some challenges just because I couldn't get help. I had my hand up asking for help, and she called me, you little blankety blank N-word. Read it for yourself. And those white kids, some of them laughed and some of them looked like, what did you just say? I only heard that word at home. But to hear from a school teacher, it rolled off my back, but I shouldn't have had to deal with it. My mother came and took care of that. But despite the passage of legislation, the day is dropping into a culture war as state legislatures attempt to ban school discussions of the long-lasting effects of slavery, Big C. And they talk about the systemic racism and critical race theory. Some people want to believe that the Holocaust never happened. But if you insult Jewish Americans, then people say, oh, no, you can't do that. But black Americans have had to deal with atrocities a lot longer than Jewish Americans. And people, a lot of the conservative garbage on TV and radio, they still want to say, oh, don't they have enough? We had a civil war, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, yes. The Holocaust should always be recognized, a very horrific event in world history. But think about how many black people have died here in America. Very close to the number of what the Holocaust was when you think about the totality since the start of slavery, Charlton, till today. The number of black people that have died at the hands of white people here in America. And they don't want to recognize it. They want to continuously say it does not matter.
Yeah, just get over it.
We didn't own slaves.
Yeah.
Our people. Regardless of that, Charlton, we don't have to go all the way back 400 years.
Yeah.
Think about what's documented in history books, Charlton, what whites did to blacks, what they stole in Elaine, Arkansas.
Yeah.
When the federal troops went in and killed over 250 black citizens, Charlton. Citizens because they wanted to form a union.
Yeah.
Think about Tulsa, the massacre. Think about that, Charlton. When law enforcement went in and burnt down a black community. When you talk about reparations that you can document, that you don't have to go back more than 100 years to show where reparations should be given, Charlton, to these people that you took their lives and their property and you still don't want to even recognize that.
Yeah, the Black Wall Street is all fair in love and war. It's all fair in love and war. I wish everybody keep having dialogue. LA Clippers Kawhi Leonard remains out for Game 6 with knee injuries. In Dallas, Mavericks Luka Doncic and Rick Carlisle. Where do they go from here, Big C? Carlisle won't return as a Dallas Mavericks head coach after 13 seasons. And then when you think about it, the great Nikola Jokic, MVP, he sends Phoenix Suns center DeAndre Ayton an autographed jersey. And, I mean, it's about sportsmanship. It's the thrill of victory, agony of defeat. And sometimes people can just say, hey, we fight hard, we try to win, but at the end of the day, I still respect you because not many people can do what we do. It's all fair in love and war. Tonight we have a big game in Super Black Man Kevin Durant and King Giannis in Milwaukee. It's all fair in love and war. I wish everybody nothing but the best. Please, everybody. It is so hot. There's a heat wave sweeping across the country. But I want to make sure people beware of heat stroke. And something that also happened, Big C, that's important in my opinion, is when you look at our president and our conservative friends that are hating the fact that there's another holiday to honor African Americans. Never forget that we all are at this country because of a lot of free labor. Big C News, Supreme Court rejects Donald Trump's administration attempt to overturn Obamacare. And it means that more people can still have access to health care. They're just trying to improve on it and make it more affordable, but not to get rid of it. And that's important, especially as more and more people are dealing with the vestiges of COVID and also heat stroke, which will be part of a lot of people's reality. Big C, there's so much to be grateful for, and I'm grateful that we can rise and shine. May everybody please stay hydrated. It's all fair in love and war. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? Big C, what are you looking forward to in this sports universe?
Well, Charlton, on the Milwaukee Bucks are on their warm-ups. They got this sign and signature says, fear the deer. And that's what I'm expecting from Giannis tonight. Will he be a buck or a Joe when you go out there and ask him to fear the deer? Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They don't fear any deers, Charlton. They take care of all your wounds.
They take care of all your wounds. And you don't have to fear deer either. But you can heed a deer crossing. Deers can read. And you can read, too, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the Double Network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as my mama always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.